Let's bring in founder and executive director of the National Security Institute, Jamil Jaffer. Thank you very much, Jamil, for joining us. Interested your take on China's role in the discussion of Iran, the discussion about the Strait of Hormuz. It sounds like there were some mixed promises that Xi made to President Trump, saying on the one hand, if you need any help from us, we'll do anything. But at the same time, we want to keep buying Iranian oil, which continues to prop up this terrorist regime. What's your takeaway on what was the real progress there?
Well, I think this is the real challenge with China. You know, you never really know what you're going to get. They made promises to buy American soybeans. They haven't really effectuated that. They made promises to tamp down their cyber activities against the United States. They haven't really done that. They said they'd work on critical minerals. That's not happening either. So, you know, call me skeptical when it comes to China promising to do anything at all, much less on Iran, where they rely on them for oil. They don't really want to get involved because the more that the U.S. is in a challenged relationship with Iran, the more China benefits globally and in the region.
What do you make of, watching this summit? You heard President Trump many times. He was a very gracious guest. He complimented the Chinese leader. China really spared no expense rolling out the red carpet for him. But Xi, in his remarks, was complimentary but not effusive and seemed to be a little bit icy. What's your takeaway on that?
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the President Trump was, referred to Xi as a good friend. He referred to his colleagues, Xi's colleagues, as having made friendships with the U.S. delegation. And President Xi, for his part, sort of said, yeah, President Trump was here. He liked the room. He liked the trees, the roses. And the notion of friendship between the United States and China, or between the two leaders, is something that President Trump talks a lot about, not something President Xi talks a lot about. For him, it's very transactional. He's like, look, we're going to buy a couple hundred Boeing jets, which a lot lower than I think what we were hoping to do. President Trump's bringing a bunch of CEOs in. President Xi is like, look, we'll do what we can here. And so there's very much a relationship here that's different in nature, at least the way it's described personally. You see, even in that last meeting, President Xi sitting back, his jacket buttoned, President Trump jacket unbuttoned, leaning forward, more colloquial, more collaborative. It doesn't seem like President Xi is reciprocating the same kind of relationship President Trump wants. At the same time, President Xi recognizes President Trump likes the pomp and circumstance, and he's going to give him that and show that off, bringing him to essentially the Chinese equivalent of the White House there in China.
Would you say that in a way this sort of, thawing is a success in and of itself, though? Because on the one hand, you have Secretary of State Marco Rubio referring to China as our greatest geopolitical foe. And yes, you have some forthcoming trade agreements that might not be, to the average person, as great a deliverable as maybe progress on Iran or some of these bigger headlines. But that is something tangible coming out of this summit, especially when you harken back to a year ago and we were in a pretty bad trade war with China.
Well, certainly I think President Trump has gotten some of what he wants out of China, in the sense that he has gotten some U.S. economic sales, made clear that we want to do more business with China. The challenge for me, though, is that President Trump was really strong with respect to China in his first administration. He was very aggressive. He pressed them hard. He got real concessions. This time around, it seems a lot more collaborative, and the challenge is that China hasn't gotten better on any front. They're more aggressive against us on the cyber front, more aggressive against our friends in Taiwan, more aggressive around the globe trying to take the lead, pursuing us on AI, trying to get the edge on us, stealing American IP across the board, including in AI. So it's not like China's getting better, but we seem to want a better relationship with them. We seem to want their help in Iran and the like. And the problem is China's still doing what it always does, which is stringing us along and not really doing anything substantive to benefit us. So while I think you're right that we got some wins on this trip and President Trump got what he wants out of it, I worry that we're no longer in the position of sort of pushing China to do better, but more trying to give them stuff from our end. That's not a place we want to be. It's not a place President Trump has been with anybody else. It's not a place he should be with China.
Just about 30 seconds left. He did also, though, deny President Xi something that China wanted very badly, and that was a shift in U.S. position toward Taiwan. And there were a lot of Democrats hand-wringing that the president was going to sell out Taiwan. U.S. officials made very clear ahead of this meeting that was not up for negotiation. But the Chinese, in their readout, didn't take that lightly. They made a direct threat.
Yeah, no, look, that's exactly right. I think it's great the president did not do anything on Taiwan. Now the key is going to be he's offered Taiwan a huge amount of weapons. We've made good on about half of that. He needs to make good on that second half of it. If so, it'll be a great push in the face to President Xi and say, look, we may do trade deals with you. We're not going to give them our friends in the region.
All right, Jamil Jaffer, thank you so much for being with us on his continuing coverage of the historic state visit of President Trump to China.